Hello everyone, this is Erik, the Asian movie enthusiast, and this is my review of Long Day's Journey into Night, a Chinese drama romance flick from 2018 that is unrelated to the American stage play of the same name. This was directed by a man named Bi Gan, who only recently has made a name for himself. I've seen this director's first feature-length film, Kaili Blues from 2015, which I moderately enjoyed. However, I gather the impression that I would enjoy it even more after a second viewing because that was my experience with Long Day's Journey into Night, which I watched twice in quick succession. So this film chronicles the return of a man to Kaili, the hometown from which he fled many years before, back for his father's funeral. He recalls the death of an old friend and searches for his lost love, who continues to haunt him. Now, the very beginning of this movie has narration about dreams and out-of-body experiences. Later in the film, it is said that the difference between a movie and memory is that movies are always false. In a movie, one scene follows another, but memories mix truth and lies, which is kind of an interesting little observation. One thing to understand is that there are a lot of subtle references within this movie, both visually and through dialogue. So, for example, there might be a quick line of dialogue early on that will be referenced later through visuals, and you got to pay attention to put two and two together. In other cases, the interpretation of a scene might be expressed through visuals alone. A lot of these references occur during moments that are seemingly uneventful on their surface. So if you recognize this going into it, it'll help you to make sense of certain events and character motivations. Most of the content in Long Day's Journey into Night is communicated in very subtle ways, which could be frustrating for some viewers. There's no way you're going to understand everything in this movie after one viewing. Fortunately, there is a very good interpretation video on YouTube. I'll include a link in the description box below. So if you do find yourself getting annoyed while watching this, like you're just not understanding, like, what's the point to these scenes, I suggest that you pause the film and just watch a few minutes of that interpretation video to kind of get you on the right track, and then continue watching the movie. That's kind of how you gotta play with this one. From a purely aesthetic standpoint, there's a lot to like about this movie. It's beautifully shot, with all the bells and whistles to make it visually absorbing. Some of the nighttime shots of neon-lit areas are pretty eye-catching. The scene transitions are great too. There's one with pouring rain that actually hits the camera, or maybe they had glass in front of the camera, as it pans sideways, like from one tunnel to another, and it starts another scene after the rain stops, which is pretty cool. A lot of really nice scene transitions in this. I like the free-flowing nature of events. Lots of like slow tracking shots that follow the characters as they explore different areas. Some scenes go on for a very long time without edits. In fact, the most critically acclaimed sequence in this film is an uncut 59-minute tracking shot that ends the film. Apparently, it took like months of preparation and 7 attempts at least to complete that sequence and film it to the director's satisfaction. So it's pretty neat to watch. And that sequence was also shot in 3D compared to the first half of the film that was shot in 2D, because the director thought it would be a better reflection of the real-time nature of events in that section of the film. I mean, I saw it in 2D because I saw it streaming on Amazon, but I enjoyed it even in 2D. But I get where he was coming from. Now, you'll know that big sequence is coming because the main character actually puts on a set of 3D glasses in the middle of the movie, and the title of the film pops up, like 70 minutes into the film, which is not something you see often. You see Long Day's Journey into Night, and then it cuts, and then bam, you're into the 3D sequence for the rest of the film. Quite odd, but it almost bookmarks the separation of the film, which is pretty cool, though. That entire sequence takes place at night in a pretty cool environment. It feels like an old decrepit mining town with like stone structures that also has a modern nightlife within it. Some neon lights and some dance clubs and stuff like that, which is pretty cool. There are times where you kind of wonder how they filmed the scene, like how the production went. Like at one point, the camera actually starts floating, without an edit. They must have put like a, I don't know what they did. They must have somehow lifted the camera up in the air, like a few stories above the ground, and then floated it above the buildings for an aerial shot, almost like a drone, but it was a regular camera. So there's some scenes like that that are pretty impressive in terms of how they must have done it. Certainly, it's the highlight set piece of the film, the whole second half of the film. Music is very atmospheric. At times it reminded me of Kenji Kawai's score for Ghost in the Shell. It has kind of like a few little, I don't know what you would call it, like chants or stuff like that are mixed in at times. It's good. So, Long Day's Journey into Night is very impressive in terms of style and direction. Acting is also quite good. The lead actor has appeared in a number of films that I've seen before, but most of those were supporting roles, so he never really stuck out to me before this, but I liked him in this. Of course, the main reason I watched this movie is not the critical acclaim or the premise. It was because Tang Wei was the female lead in it. I'm a huge fan of hers, and she does not disappoint here. Very good performance. So I'd rather see her in films like this than in stuff like Crossing Hennessy or Black Hat. At least her talents are utilized here, I think. The two leads have good chemistry, and there are a few very romantic scenes that you can enjoy as well. Now, I mentioned a lot of positives so far, but it would seem that critics seem to like this film more than casual moviegoers, and I'd like to point out some reasons why I think this is the case. First of all, I've already pointed out the rather challenging methods that the filmmaker uses to convey the story and the characters and the connections and the relationships and everything. Some viewers may find it to be too esoteric or cryptic for its own good, almost like the film is too subtle for its own good. I can kind of understand that criticism. I mean, there were some clues that I totally missed until I saw the interpretation video. I mean, there's some stuff that you can definitely figure out here, but there's also some stuff that's pretty subtle. You really got to look at the details to get some of it. So I can understand that criticism if you come away with this a little frustrated. Second, the runtime of 2 hours and 18 minutes does create a leisurely paced affair. There are some scenes that last quite a while and may include, for example, a 2-minute shot of a character walking down a pathway or taking a ski lift to another part of town. And this could annoy some viewers if the film has not absorbed them at that point. And I can understand that criticism as well. There were a few scenes that I thought dragged on a bit, and a few scenes that I thought were a tad annoying. There's one moment where a guy is eating an apple from start to finish. It's like, it doesn't last that long, but and there is certain clues in that scene that reference other parts of the film, but I don't know, it just kind of rubbed me the wrong way a little bit, just watching a dude eat an apple for like a few minutes. But, there's not that many scenes in that, in my opinion. But I still think this film is, the positives outweigh the negatives, let's put it that way. So what I'm trying to say is that Long Day's Journey into Night is not going to be a film for everyone, but I think it's worth watching for a certain kind of viewer. Obviously, the mood and the visuals played a big factor in holding my interest, as well as the presence of Tang Wei. But I enjoyed this enough, I gotta be honest, I enjoyed this enough where I might actually consider adding it to my personal library. This is available on Amazon streaming in the United States, and it also got a physical media release in the United States as well. So, I hope I gave you an idea of whether or not this film's for you. I thought it was pretty cool, though. And as always, we'll see you next time.